Hello, everyone. Thank you for checking out this special episode of Really Dicey. This is Manny, and I am here with.
Hi, I'm Tim, Tim Shiflett.
Hey, I'm Ed McKeel. We're here with the Dragonlance Nexus.
And I'm Trampus Whiteman.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you, all of you, taking the time. For those of you who haven't heard of Dragonlance Nexus, you can just plug the site real fast. If you're a big fan of Dragonlance or just want to know Dragonlance for the first time, it's a great resource to learn pretty much everything. The history of the game, the changes in lore, all that great stuff. The reason why we're doing this video together is because we want to talk about Kenders. Recently, Wizards of Coast has released through their Unearthed Arcana website some rules or potential rules for the Kender race to come back to 5th edition. And looking online, the reactions to it, I was actually a little surprised about, because for the longest, I've seen like longtime fans say, "Hey, bring back the original settings, bring back the original stuff." So yeah, okay. So now it looks like we're getting Dragonlance back into D&D, to current D&D, and I was some of the reactions were either like, "What are Kenders? I never heard of that before," or
Yep.
"Please don't bring back Kenders. Please don't." and the reason for
Always
that,
those.
which I was surprised about that. I didn't think there was so much hate out there for Kenders.
Oh, dude, you would not believe it. I've seen this online ever since I've been online. There is a section of fandom that just have this utter hate for them, and I don't know if it's born out of experience. I know some of them are, or if some of it's born out of urban legend. But a lot of, and I apologize for interrupting your train of thought there, but a lot of it I noticed stems from bad experiences with certain players. And they say, well, the race, lends itself to all these problems and everything. It's like, well, hold on. What about the player? I could be a human rogue and cause every bit the same amount of trouble that supposedly the Kender are playing. And I just think it's lack of knowledge, lack of understanding, and and some folks just don't like the quote unquote goofy character races. I don't know what's wrong with cute, but hey, some people don't like it.
It doesn't have to be cute, but we could get into that later.
Yeah. Yeah. So my first character I've ever played was a Kender. I remember coming to the D&D session totally green. I wasn't sure what to get into. The only knowledge I had was the cartoon series from the early 80s. And,
yeah.
and this option came up to me, and I was like, "Oh, a fearless halfling. I like the idea of that." So that always stuck with me, and as one of my favorite races still. And but you're right. I think it's because mostly people have had players that take advantage of the fact of their love to take things and then just rob the player characters, and no one likes that, unless that's what your group wants. But before we get more into that, let's talk about first, for anyone watching this doesn't know what a Kender is. How would you best describe a Kender?
So I would describe a Kender. They're a halfling-like race, and I would say they were inspired by halflings and by hobbits before them. But it's kind of like where hobbits want to stay at home in the Shire and never leave. Kender are just ready to leave. They are ready for adventure. And part of the reasoning for their creation was because Tracy Hickman had certain moral objections to the idea of characters who were just thieving just to be thieves. And he wanted to provide another reason for it. So, in the case of Kender, they're very childlike. The Tales of the Lance box set refer to them as children of the world. And so, as such, they have a childlike wonder. It's like that kid who wants to touch everything, and they don't quite understand the concept of possessions yet, and they could care less whether you're carrying a carrying a bag of 200 steel, but if you got a pretty purple stone, by golly, that's what they're all about.
So
And
it's also, I would say it's born out of innocence, though, not malevolence. And so, like Trampus just said, like, ooh, that's very pretty. I would like to see that. And even I've had a few Kender characters, but the most fun I've had more recently is the game that the Nexus plays online, or Dragons on the River of Time. And my favorite NPC is a Kender lady, Lithbit. And I just I harness what I feel would be that innocence, but also that sense of fun when you were a kid. You know what I mean? But not to the point of you're doing things recklessly or malevolently. It's in a sense of goodness and fun. That's what I find inherently interesting about Kender.
Yeah, it should be noted as well that they are immune to fear, both magical and mundane. And they have an ability called Taunt, where prior editions of the game have basically said, okay, I go and I taunt someone. I ask if the fleas on the ogre's back do tricks. He gets really mad, and then he comes and charges at me, and then he focuses on me, meaning the other the other player characters will then be able to gang up on him or whatever, because he is just so focused and distracted. So it's really an interesting tactical bit, I think.
Yeah,
and fun.
Yeah, and not all Kenders like that. There's a variation of Kenders, quote unquote variation, called afflicted Kenders. Also, right?
That came much later, in the after the Chaos War, whenever the dragon overlords took over, the gods disappeared, and the red dragon Malice destroyed Kendermore, the entire forest, and turned it into this huge, bleak, desolate place. The fleeing survivors, the Kender that survived that, were traumatized and afflicted by that experience, and so they lose that. They are a generation of Kender that have lost that sense, that childlike innocence, and it's incredibly sad to talk about and think about. Yeah,
we lovingly call them emo Kender.
Yeah.
And it should be noted too that they are not immune to fear, because dragons, they've got that draconic presence that just causes fear in people to begin with, and then you get the overlords, which are the biggest of the big. Well, they got quite the draconic presence, and so it just it drove that fearlessness right out of them. Yeah.
And we should point out that fearlessness doesn't mean dumb or stupid. They don't just if there's a fire, they're not just going to jump in just because they think, oh, it's fun. That's not
Right.
Nightshade Prickly Pear. He was a Kender Night Stalker, and that was his quote: "Is I'm fearless, not stupid."
So let's, before we talk a little bit more of the history of the Kender, look at the different editions and how they changed somewhat, a little bit here and there. Let's talk a little bit about role playing a Kender. So when I played a Kender, I've never thought about using it against my own party. In fact, I think there was a time, this is so long ago though, that the fact that I can, because I believe Kenders in First Edition had like this bag with some random stuff that they can get from it, and it helped the party out in times. Like if a character had a key but they were in prison, check to see perhaps maybe I had that key all along, and voila, and that helped the party to venture out. I think it's very important that in the beginning you talk to your dungeon master and kind of talk about what this character is about, so that you can avoid, if anyone's worried about like, would this character harm the group dynamic in any way? Just talk about it and see what ways you can do so. What are your thoughts about that?
One of the things that going back to people having problems with Kender in the party, is that Kender are insatiably curious. They're fearless, like we've said. And so, yeah, if they see something shiny, it ends up in their pockets and they forget about it. The one of the issues that people have is that sometimes players take that a little bit too far and they start swiping from their party members and things like that. But yeah, the pocket grab, or the Kender Pockets ability that has been around since First Edition. It's just a long list of items, random items, usually mundane and not very useful. That are you roll on a chart, one a percentile dice, and see what you get.
And that doesn't mean you're stealing from your party members. That just means you have a little ability that says, oh, you might have been walking around and you just kind of grab something or whatever. It doesn't mean you stole. Doesn't mean that you have to be a kleptomaniac.
Right.
And I feel like that seems to be the going belief, and how people have been almost traumatized by Kender is they feel like these players use this as an excuse to steal. And that does not necessarily have to be the going rate for this race.
Yeah.
And that's been a big criticism that I've seen in online D&D fandom in general. I went to EN World, or N World, however you pronounce that, and saw a lot of lively discussion and some certain correlations made with bad stereotypes. And I just, that's something I don't want to see. It's they're not meant to be they're not meant to make fun of anybody. They are meant to be something fun, something that is childlike, that there's wonder to them. And that's one of the things I think they're trying to do with 5th edition, is kind of tie them to the whimsy of the Shadowfell, or not Shadowfell, Feywild. Wow. Shadowfell,
as your cat decides to.
Yeah, that's Smokey.
He's from the Feywild.
Something you touched on, the childlike nature of Kender. I think also people misunderstand that when it comes to role playing, because I think people think childlike being as annoying kids. I think there's ways you could look at that. You could look at it as maybe a certain a naiveness about the world. I kind of look at hobbits as inspiration. The way the hobbits interacted with the world, where they were exploring and they were understanding almost like the ways of how humanity and how complex it is. What are your thoughts about that?
So my thought is, children can be very precocious. So can Kender. And sometimes a kid will say something very blunt that in its own can show a bit of wisdom, and you're just like, oh, I don't know about you, but not obviously you have when you talk about the childlike wonder, and that's fine, but you're also making these observations about how things really are, because they don't have a tendency. Yes, there's the imagination there, right? But they're also seeing things at the level of, I see this right here, right now, and you're being a butthead. That doesn't necessarily have to be any kid or whatever, but there's different levels of how a Kender can interact with people, and childlike wonder can go from one way to another, and it doesn't necessarily have to be idiotic or always stupid or something. It can actually be interesting, or it just could be simple observations, and it can bring something out of your game that you didn't think might have been there before.
I think Kender have like this great ability, like I think what, if I'm understanding Ed, is like cutting right to the heart of whatever is happening.
Yes.
And seeing, not, humans like window dressing and they like to keep up appearances and do all that, and Kender really don't have that I don't know, flaw or filter or whatever it is. They're not about making, having some kind of outward demeanor that is different from who they are, and they can just cut right to the heart or the quick of whatever is happening at the moment and call it what it is.
Okay, so let's talk briefly about the journey of the Kender in different editions. It started out in first edition, and then got more explosion away in second edition. Came out third edition. Fourth edition, it for some reason it skipped, and I feel like that was kind of a mistake on.
So here's a little tidbit about fourth edition that isn't widely known. I was working on a Kender article for Dragon for fourth edition, and I had gone through 2 sets of revisions, and I'm like, I am almost there. This looks good. This feels good. And that's when everything changed, and Dragon kind of came to an end, and here came fifth edition. So never quite got it put out there.
So no, not appearance in fourth edition, and now looks like it's making an appearance in fifth edition. If I may ask, what has been maybe some of your, before fifth edition, what has been some of your favorite changes to the lore? Is there anything about Kenders that you were happy to see either change or evolve in some way?
The thing that stands out to me is second edition Tales of the Lance box set, because what they did in there was all the races, they gave them each such unique and marvelous weapons. And the Kender, their weapons were like 2 weapons in one, kind of like the Hoopak was. And one of my favorites was the Sithak, which is, it's a bow, but if you turn it, it's kind of like a batlet. It's got little swords on the end, and you can just fight with that. But some of their weapons too double as musical instruments. So you had the I think it was a chapak. It was a axe, and then the end of it had like a double thing, and I think you could do a slingshot with that, but the handle of it was a flute, and that was just so much fun.
Oh, that's great. I did not know that. I got to look that up. That's interesting.
Oh yeah, totally.
So we've got I know we're doing some self-advertising, but in Tasslehoff's Pouches of Everything, we did all the Kender weapons, and they're all on this large table that we made. There's the Batak, I guess. There's all types of stuff. There's crazy amounts. There's a lot of different ones.
Tons of stuff.
Okay. Well, let's talk about fifth edition then. So we've seen the Arcana's rough rules right now for Kender. I think the spirit of it, I understand. I see the changes they've done. They have taunt. It's their fearlessness. They have you rolling with advantage against fear or fear conditions. And I guess now they're more connected to the Fae than previously, because now they have a bag where something magical may appear. I wonder if that's their way of staying away from the kleptomania side of Kenders from previous editions. Maybe they felt that it'd be too difficult to understand. Maybe that's their way of trying to push away bad players from taking advantage of their party. What are your thoughts?
It's fine. I'm just kidding. Sorry. I just had to tweak.
We went way down into the rabbit hole with our Kender pouches. Come on, Tim.
I know. All right.
This has been quite the discussion. Go ahead.
It's been going on for a while. I got to tell you, I give WotC props for even putting out the Kender right up front first. I can tell you from experience, from a design perspective, I think we argued a lot over rules, but man, it got heated over the Kender when we designed it for Tasslehoff's Pouches of Everything.
We play tested it in our game.
Yeah, and I mean I've never ever seen Kender come up in an extended kind of discussion where it didn't kind of devolve into an argument. I have, but it seems like it's almost a required thing to start arguing over Kender. But honestly, in my honest opinion, mechanically, I think it needs some tweaking, but I think it's fine. I mean, I think mechanically it works. I don't know why they feel the need to associate Kender with magic. When
I do.
A mundane explanation would be fine. It might have something to like the way WotC defines magic might not be a literal magic, but go ahead, Trampus. You know why they're doing it.
Well, I think this is an educated guess, right?
Oh, okay.
So really, one of the things that you'll notice is they tie Kender to the Feywild, and so part of that is so that they can say, okay, well, yeah, they're a childlike race, but that's just that sense of whimsy that you get from the Feywild, and that, for whatever reason, seems to be a little bit more palatable to fans, I think. I think the magical pouch thing, which they call that ability Kender Ace, and I'm sorry, these are not fighter pilots.
It's their ace in the hole.
Dude, this die 6 rolls like Kender Leprechaun.
oh my
5d6 gold pieces on a d6 roll. I mean, come on. All right, sorry.
But,
I'm not saying you can't change the chart up a bit, but yeah,
I'm saying you should change the chart up a bit. That's what I.
No. Yeah, I agree with you. I think that like the gold piece thing needs to go away. It's pretty useless. I like the idea of rolling on the chart and then the player gets to pick the item that they come up with under certain criteria. I do like that, and I think Kender Aces is actually a useful ability in a pinch.
Yeah, because back when they were doing the D&D Next playtest, they had a Kender there, which they were going to put into the DMG and it never made it. But didn't they just have them rolling on the trinket chart?
They didn't roll on the trinket chart. They rolled a D4, and on a 1 you had the item that you were looking for.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, and that was during the playtest. They snuck a Kender into the playtest document back before 5th edition dropped. So
okay,
yeah.
We have a whole page. It's a D100, 100 different options of our Kender pouches.
Yeah, which is kind of a shout out to the 1st edition thing. The DM was supposed to build a D100 chart for the player.
Well, and I should also give a shout out to Sean McDonald, who went online as Kipper Snifferdew for many years. He's the resident Kender expert, runs the site called Kencyclopedia.com. Say that 5 times fast. He's also a cartographer who's done work for Margaret Weiss Productions, Green Ronin, Wizards of the Coast, amongst others. So very fun, talented guy, Kender at heart. But he did some of the work in Races of Ancelon on Kender, and I think he worked on the Kender pouch grab chart from there. So that's definitely a tradition that you've seen throughout editions, and quite honestly, I think that's about the most useful chart you could have. Or some chart like that while playing a Kender. It's just that way you could roll and you say, "Oh, I got a rubber ducky," and
Okay. Well, let's talk a little bit about Taz's pouches of everything. What race options do you have for playing a Kender in that book?
Well, we have 3 different subclasses. Well, technically we have 2 subclasses, and then you can play a half Kender as well. But those just we say to use the stout halfling racial features. But yeah, you can play as what we term a quote unquote true Kender, and then there's the afflicted Kender sub race.
Do you want us to go down like the different abilities, or
like you want us to do the racial features?
If you wish, if we could talk about, I mean, because that could be like a long discussion itself. But maybe you could talk about your favorite things about it.
We did this little thing called Explorer, and so that really runs into how Kender are out there doing their wanderlust. So one thing is, whenever you make an intelligence history check regarding geography, you can double your proficiency bonus for the check. And so that's just showing that Kender are out there traveling and they're good with maps.
Yeah, and that's a base Kender trait. Yeah, it's not like it's both true.
Oh
Kender
yeah,
and
no, you're right. Both
right?
Kender get that.
Right. My favorite is the Kender fighting ability, which is also a base trait where they're proficient with improvised weapons. So you can just pick up anything pretty much and kind of use it as a weapon.
Which I could totally see them doing,
Oh yeah.
All right. And this book is 5e compatible.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll put a link to that in the description below.
Yeah. And it's free.
It's free.
It is free. It costs you nothing.
One-stop shop for all your Dragonlance 5e needs.
Everything.
All of you done a really great job with the research there. I really enjoyed that book a lot. And
thanks.
Are you looking to have that maybe in the DM's Guild once Dragonlance becomes an official thing in
Yes.
5th edition?
Yeah, so actually we're working, so through Tasslehoff's Pouches, we kind of borrowed some old art, and that's why it's free. So we've been spending time commissioning new art for it, and we're going to add a couple things to it, and then we'll put it up for sale on the DM's Guild once that goes. And there will be maybe a first chapter of an adventure. There may be some stat blocks for the Infellows in 5e, a couple cool things that weren't in the original to make it worth your while to pay a few bucks for it. But it won't be outrageously priced, I promise.
Okay.
Yeah, and we're continuing on to with other projects. There's an adventure path called Champions of Kryn that Chuck Martinell's working on, and Chuck was a huge fan of the old Champions of Kryn video game, and he's expanded upon that and created this whole adventure path, and it's been a lot of fun. I particularly loved seeing some of the art that we've had commissioned for it, and one just seemed kind of old school, and you get to see this female Knight of Solamnia, which you don't see enough art of female Knights of Solamnia, right? And so that was very cool, in my opinion, and just love it. I don't know if we've talked about any other projects publicly or not, but there's some other stuff in the works. So,
Tim, you want to talk about the bestiary real quick?
Well, we are in the playtesting stage of the Dragonlance bestiary, however you want to say it. We are. It's going to have well over, I think, 50 monsters, creatures, NPCs, that sort of thing. So yeah, it's a pretty hefty project. We've got some editing and some fluff to add, but by and large, the monsters are done, and we're just we're waiting on trying to stress test them a little bit to see if they stack up to the way we made them. So yeah.
Okay, excellent. So before we wrap up, for those of you who may be hearing about Kenders for the first time, you may not know who Taz is. Taz is a Kender and a major character in the Dragonlance novels. What is everyone's? Forgive me for putting you on the spot, everyone, but what is your favorite Taz moment?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yes.
Wow, you did put us on the spot.
My favorite. I've got one. You ready? My favorite one. It's in Dragons of Autumn Twilight, where he gets stuck in the mouth of the wicker dragon, and Karaman is carrying the head of this wicker dragon, and Tasslehoff's feet are dangling out of its mouth, and it looks like a forked tongue. And that's the first time Raceland laughs ever in the novel. When he realized, everybody's like, "Oh my God, there's a dragon!" And Raceland's the first one to realize that's Tasslehoff's feet dangling out of the wicker dragon's mouth.
So,
and he does that like horrible, hideous laughter.
So for me, it's when, in the next trilogy in Legends, when him and Caramon go back in time, and Caramon's kind of like become this overweight alcoholic, and they make him become a gladiator, and they have him doing all these exercises, and he's like, Taz is waiting for him in his room, and he's like, he comes in, and he's just falling on the floor. He's like, "What's wrong? What did they have you do?" And he's like, calisthenics. And it's the first time like Taz really just loses his patience with Caramon, and he's just like, "You need to get in shape, dude." Not in those words, but that's
there's so many good ones with Taz, but I think for me one of them is one of his more serious moments, which is they have the Whitestone Council gathered, and they've got this dragon orb, and they're talking about what to do about it, and they're all arguing, and Taz takes that thing and just out of some instinct, throws it against the Whitestone there and shatters it, and everybody looks at him with daggers in their eyes, and he basically just lets them know, well, hey, no one's representing my people for one, and so I'm going to represent them, and two, you all are being stupid. And and he did say y'all, I'm pretty certain.
You're right. Yeah, he's from the south. No, that is definitely what we're talking about with a Kender's ability to really cut to the heart. Everybody's arguing about what to do with his dragon orb, and he's like, "You're focusing on the wrong thing, so let's just get rid of it." Yeah,
let's all come together.
It's a good one. Yep.
Yeah, and it's a defining moment, and I think that's the one that'll always stick with me.
All right, excellent. Again, I'll put links to everything we talked about below. Viewers out there, let us know what you think. What is your favorite Taz story? What are your favorite things about the Kenders? Do you agree that Kenders can be a force of fun out there? Let us know in the comments below. And I just want to say real fast that it doesn't matter if you play 5th edition or 1st edition, as long as you're having fun, that's all that matters. And that's it, everyone. Again, thank you all so much. And
thank you.
Take care, everyone.
Thanks for having us again.
Yes,
man.
thank
Appreciate
you.
it.